Okay. Welcome back, Nicola. This is Comic Corner Classic. This is no classic. This is episode number 1510 and Doubleshot number 1404. Yes, we're going to discuss the first two of three new printing trades that collect Chuck Austin's run for Uncanny X-Men. You're thinking, really? You were talking about Chuck Austin's run? A run that was not popular with a lot of people? Here's the thing. When I got into comics, this was in fact like 17 years ago. This run had actually just ended by the time I got into reading Uncanny X-Men. Yes, I did read it. There's some good stuff about it I like. So, and yes, I do know about the fact that Chuck Austin used to write porn before he did this. Yes, I know full well about that. Heck, I even know about the fact he did Superman. So in case you probably are asking, Nick, did you know he did Superman? I already know that. I read his run. That run was not very good. As a matter of fact, he had this weird thing where Superman gets unconscious and he wakes up in Lana Lang's bedroom and his pants are off. And the way Chuck Austin plays it off, it's like he really is implying the fact that Lana really wants to have sex with Clark. Seriously, that is seriously what she wants him to do, what's her to do to him. Yeah. I do agree with that. That was not a good run. This actually was pretty good. That's just my opinion anyways. Now, there is new characters pop up in this run. Like, okay, anyone can tell we see Iceman, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and you're probably thinking, who is that babe right next to Iceman? That is Stacy X, a woman who used to be a prostitute. Yes, and I will get to, when I get to the last trade, what happened to her after this run wrapped up. Yep. And as he knows with the costumes, yeah, this is the early 2000s where we had the X-Men wear leather. Like, ooh, leather makes you scary. The only character who actually made this work was Beast, surprisingly. Now, Wolverine, this I thought was really weird. If you read New X-Men, he wears a completely different costume compared to this book. This book is wear a damn mask for some reason. Now, this book contains, get this, okay, it contains issues 410 to 424. And it also contains X-Men Unlimited issues 44 and 45. Yeah, I threw in some X-Men Limited issues because he wrote them at the time. These are your artists for these issues. Ron Garney, who did issues 410 to 412. Sean Phillips, 413 to 415. X-Men Limited 44. Raymond Molnier. Excuse me. 416 to 420. Kai Shima, X-Men Limited 45, Pop Man, and Ron Garney does come back for issue 424. The first story is called Hope. We introduce a new character named Sammy, who's basically a fish boy, who gets spat on because he's a mutant, and of course, the bigotry is very high here. He eventually, of course, gets offered to join the X-Men, which he accepts. He basically joins the school, of course, and we have some training going on, and we have something going on over in like another country. Yeah, this opening story is simple, but basically something that happened. Like it just basically like Chuck Austin laid the groundwork for his run, and we have stuff related to something going on, and then we have the return. We have the appearance by the Juggernaut. Yes. If you read this entire run, Juggernaut is in the whole thing. I think because Chuck Austin wants to do something different with the character, which I do praise him for. Do something different with Juggernaut. You don't have to basically make him a big villain for the X-Men to fight all the time. Yeah, and this was drastically different. And so it's revealed that he had contacted the X-Men because something happened to, well, Black Tom Cassidy. And then we cut to a hospital in New York, where you have Alex Summers with a scar on his face coming out of a coma. Okay, there is an explanation for this. Like, why is he coming out of a coma at this point? And You see, prior to this, he was not in the book at all, because he had not been seen in several years in comics. There's a reason for that. And the reason is because everybody thought that Alex Summers, aka Havoc, was dead. He apparently died in the final issue of X Factor Volume 1, issue 149. Which seems like a very random end of the volume, yeah, but that's what they did. Once the volume ended, he popped up the following year in the pages of Mutant X, where he was the star of the series, and it was an ultra-reality version of the X-Men. One of the things they actually had in there was the fact that Storm is still a vampire in that continuity. She calls it Bloodstorm, and that Storm did pop up in the pages of Cullen Bunn's X-Men Blue. Also, Havoc is basically not married to Lorna. He's actually married to somebody else, I think, and he has a son. And Elektra is the nanny. Yes. So, one of the world's most deadliest assassins, Elektra, who also happens to be one of the Marvel's most hottest women, is the nanny for Alex Summers' child. Because of course she is. The book itself didn't last very long. It only lasted 31 issues and actually published a few annuals, shockingly enough. You know what's something weird about that series? No trade. And when people think of Mutant X, the first thing that comes to mind is the TV show, which had nothing with the comic or the X-Men. It just did its own thing. Now, the woman with him is named Annie. She's a single mom, and her son is a mutant. And she basically says hi to the son, and then, of course, she finds, oh yeah, that he is, in fact, Alex Summers. Now, Black Tom Cassidy is acting weird. Like, what's with the vines, you might ask? Okay, there is an explanation for this. And this is something that I think this was Chuck Austin's idea, because it was actually kind of explored also in Grant Morrison's X-Men. Okay, what's going on here? Black Tom Cassidy is undergoing a second mutation. Yep, a second mutation, where, like, certain characters get secondary powers. Like Emma Frost, for example. Everybody knows about her turning in diamond form. That's actually a secondary mutation, because for years, all she was telepath. Black Tom Cassidy turned to this vine creature, which his latest layer got undone, by the way. And the only person who suffered through this was actually Iceman, who became permanently stuck in his ice form, which wouldn't be the first time it happened to him. And I guess they'd be like, wait, who the heck is Black Tom Cassidy? One guy says he's basically Juggernaut's boyfriend. And Juggernaut's like, no, he's his partner, not his boyfriend. And of course, deal with the various other things. And of course, Scott Summers finds out his brother's alive, goes to get him. Oh, by the way, this run also sets up something for Nightcrawler too. Yes, Nightcrawler. And of course, Annie meets Scott Summers, who is not taken back the instant. Of course, she basically wants to look after him. Like, comes nurse. Like, okay, you can come along. And yeah, and the first story basically has, Stacy going after Black Tom Cassidy, who kind of in the way knocks him out cold and has Warren turn back to being, normal. Black Tom gets knocked out, and it looks like and we have basically Stacy picking up Warren. Well, it looks like those two are gonna make out, then Warren like, what are you doing? Nothing. Yeah, there is something here about when it comes to Stacy and Warren. It is very heavily implied here that she's got a thing for Warren. And he ends up dating Husk, Cannonball's sister. Yep, they date. So, after everybody's retrieved, and of course, Black Tom Cassidy is basically left in the sea, and of course, Juggernaut is saved by the Fishman. And of course, Juggernaut is thanked basically by Xavier for saving the X-Men. Offers him a place to live. And he's like, okay. And I love the fact that and we also start the friendship between him and Sammy. Yep. So we have Andy coming to the Xavier Institute. Mm-hmm. sees the mutants. Now, the thing with Annie is, despite the fact she knows her son's a mutant, there's implied bigotry here, but it doesn't interfere with her work. She doesn't, like, downright disgust the X-Men. She's like, I don't want to be around you guys because they're mutants. So she becomes new nurse, and she takes care of. She does a really good job taking care of people. Juggernaut just hanging around. Takes a bit to figure out what Chuck also wants to do with him. So he just hangs about. It's like, we can do something. And of course, Sammy decides to become good friends with him. And of course, they also later on mention stuff with Cassandra Nova, which is from the first arc from New X-Men. So we see that, yeah, Annie's son is mutant. And then we have a story arc featuring the return of Northstar, which basically, after saving a kid, he's offered a place with the X-Men as a teacher. Yes, Northstar becomes teacher for the Xavier Institute. Yep, he joins the X-Men. And believe it or not, Northstar stays with the X-Men for a long time. He does occasionally do one-off reunions with Alpha Flight. But Northstar, as far as I can tell, has stayed with the X-Men since Chuck Austin added to the roster. He's been part of the team since then. Of course, this is also thanks to him later meeting his future husband, who he's still married to. Yep. And of course, he reveals Stacy's ability to shed her skin, like Husk can. Yeah, he's offered, like, he's about to leave. Like, I got this idea. I'm going to need some thought. I like to teach you. Yep. And then we have secrets. Yep. And then we have this female, I don't know who this woman's supposed to be. She's hitting out Warren, and of course, that's something. And then, of course, we have reveal that Iceman is going through the secondary mutation as well, where he's later going to be stuck in ice swamp for about a few years. Yeah. And then him and basically this blue skinned girl, he kind of item, like, think of that, but nope. Then we have this clay monster. Or he told him he's innocent. And of course, he gets a crap beat out of him by this guy, and then he's saved by Northstar. And of course, you have Northstar, and you have Iceman saying this: "Hey, handsome, nice suit. Come here often." Oh, that's funny. No, that is basically not Iceman. Basically implying he's gay. He's just plain jokes. Of course, Northstar beats the crap out of the guy, and he gets, ripped in half. Don't know what happens to him. And of course, Alex Summers is still in a coma. And we still have him going second invitation. And of course, we still have the friendship between Juggernaut and Sammy. And we have Stacy bonding with Annie. Despite the fact she has scaly skin, she doesn't really, eke at her because she seems, normal compared to a lot of some of the other people she's probably met. And then we see Alex start kind of his coma. Still more bond between Juggernaut and Sammy. Yep. By the way, there's something dumb with Sammy pops up later on, which is really dumb. And then we cut to an X-Men Limited issue, which is basically a focus on character of Sammy and Juggernaut's friendship. Yeah, this becomes basically the groundwork for Chuck Austin's run. And of course, Gene decides to just read his mind without his permission. All about a dog. Yeah. It's a good one-shot. It's a good one-shot issue because, X-Men was known for doing this, so that's basically what it does. And then we have Dominant Species, where a guy basically tells his girlfriend he loves him despite the fact she's got a horn in her head. And then we had the biggest show up basically to start something really dumb. And I do mean really dumb. And of course, we have some fighting frickin' demons. Oh yes, demons. Yep. And then we have Stacy going to Nightcrawler's room completely naked. And she tries to seduce him. He's like, no thank you. I'm like, really? I get the fact, I don't know if she's a minor at this point, but man, Kurt, you turned out to be a woman. How dare you? And of course, there's a weird thing with this guy called Maximus Lobo, who tries to buy out, well, Warren's Industries, who actually works for Warren's uncle. And then we have the return of Lorna, because Alex was coma. Yep. And then it's like, okay, and of course, she just acting really evil. Yeah, let's have Chuck Austin have it where she's acting kind of evil to somebody who's actually taking care of her, or basically the guy she loves. Yep, hopefully Xavier tells her to calm down. Yep. And elsewhere... And of course, Paige is basically trying to move. And she can't exactly turn back, basically, to her normal skin for a bit. And luckily enough that, well, Northstar is there, basically, to calm down Annie. Yep, so she basically turns back normal after peeling off her gray skin. Like, okay, puts on an outfit. And it looks like it's implied that he actually peeked at her naked. Yep, this is basically kind of the start of the relationship between Archangel and Husk. And of course, Alex wondering what happened to Carter, who's injured. And then, of course, well, and we basically just, well, having, well, Paige being hurt. And of course, you have, looks like we have Xavier going to Sammy's mind. And then we have something going with Nightcrawler, with this priest. That's set up for a very dumb story, which I'll get. I'm going to basically talk about that here. So, after Paige gets wounded, and of course, well, everyone goes to look for him, of course. And Lauren acting completely out of character, so Warren decides to notice, oh yeah, basically he's kind of got a healing factor. Like, he's healing, but basically it's his blood. Huh? Healing factor is my blood. So he decides to take a box cutter, slice open his own chest, and then rubs it against Paige. And then she has the funniest line here. She's like, hey, did you just press your chest to mine? Your naked chest to mine. I thought that'd be so funny. Yes. And then we have them fighting more demons. Yes, it's really kind of odd this storyline is. Then we have a storyline that features Alpha Flight. Yep, just an Alpha Flight issue. It's a good issue. Does it have something? Kind of, yes. Mostly put, it's just the birth of Guardian and Vindicator's daughter. Yep, it's an excellent story. However, I can take out if you're basically a fan of the character. And that leads into 421. Rules of Engagement. Where Alex is basically recovering from this. And, well, Annie wants to talk to Xavier, but everyone else wants to come in. And then you have Laura forcing a kiss on him. And then she basically, like, does something like asking him to marry her. And he has no choice in the matter, despite the fact that, well, you can't exactly say no. It's like, okay. Despite the fact he doesn't want it at that point because he's in love with Annie, not her anymore. Yeah, the whole thing with the way Lorna is written here, like, if you're a fan of Lorna Dane, she's written to be such a evil woman for like no reason. Yes. So basically, later on, he wants to go on the team. A team, anyways. Yeah, Cyclops says no. And then something really dumb here happens. Alpha Flight shows up and says this, by the order of the Prime Minister of Canada and the Governor and Attorney General of the State of New York, you're hereby ordered to relinquish the custody of all the children to the care of Alpha Flight. Yeah. This is a really dumb ending. Alpha Flight show up, take all the kids. Yep. Yes, Alpha Flight. And then we have this weird thing where basically we have Warren going to his room, and then we see apparently Stacy has apparently made a new video of herself for him. He's like, whoa. It's like, Paige. And of course, well, he's just like, oh, the most beautiful thing you ever to me. Oh, and then he says, I love to kiss you, but I don't want to remember our first kiss with Stacy jumping at the back, naked in the background. And then Chamber shows up. Yep, because Alpha Flight is here. And there's a big standoff. And of course, Xavier's trying to get his attorney's attention on this. Oh, and don't worry. And it's all about Sammy. Yep. Sammy and Juggernaut form a very good friendship. And of course, you have Juggernaut having face-to-face with Sasquatch. Yes, Sasquatch. As far as I know, I don't think Juggernaut's ever met Alpha Flight before. Nope. And then Puck basically acts completely out of character, trying to force, like, Annie's son Carter to go with him. And then basically, Juggernaut basically punches him. Like, I'm not sure why the heck Chuck Austin would write Alpha Flight to be completely out of character. And then basically, Alpha Flight and X-Men decided to basically start the brawl. And then Northstar is like... And Northstar grabs Guardian and it says, hey. And she's like, hey, Northstar. Hello, Guardian. How have you been, my friend? Before you answer, cover your face. Wall. And then they disappear for the rest of the comic. What happens next? You know what happens to them? Oh yeah, Northstar rips apart his outfit. That's literally what he does. Yep. And of course, Iceman freezes Jean. Yes, freezes Jean. And of course, you have Juggernaut beating the crap out of Sasquatch. And we have these weird creatures showing up here. Like, what? Yeah, and then of course, Xavier's like, Jack, think of something quickly. Things are escalating here. Of course, Paige helping Juggernaut. And of course, well, that's what happens there. Sonberg is knocked unconscious. Yeah, somehow she got knocked unconscious. I'm not sure how. It's like, oh, Sonberg's unconscious. Of course, you have Juggernaut fighting Sasquatch. And then, of course, you turn to get a phone call and says, hello. Well, she's like, hello. Good afternoon. My name is Jack White. I'm legal counsel of Mr. Xavier. I have a proposition for you. You're like, I have no interest in. If you call off your Canadian hounds, we promise not to go to the press. We also promise not to feel the governor of your great state is an anti-mutant racist who's politically motivated to shut down Xavier's school because he is monitoring connected to the church community and their spiritual leader. A former federal suspect who is legally barred from making political contributions to your employer. He's just like, hey, Rachel, can't be true. You got 5 minutes to verify. And of course, Sam has to go with them. And of course, Alpha Flight stands down. And then we lead to... Yes. I made that sound because... Yes, I agree with Linkar on this particular story arc. This two-parter from 423 and 424. Holy War. Yes, which leads something really dumb in the aftermath. Where... Angelo, a guy who appeared just prior to this, he gets killed off at the start of the story arc just to do something. And of course, a lot of basic Linkara's opinions about this storyline really, yeah, I kind of agree because the storyline is really dumb. Yep. about priesthood. If you want basically a full, like, big thoughts about this, watch Linkar's 2-part review of this really bad story arc. Yes, where, like, the big plan is, oh, make Nightcrawler the Pope for some stupid reason. Yes. This story arc leads absolutely nowhere. It's a very pointless story arc. That's simply what it is. The trade itself, like, I think the opening story arc I thought was really good. Yeah. The opening story arc, like I said, really good. I don't think it's terrible per se. But, yeah, I think probably by far the two worst things about the storylines in this trade is the stuff with the Alpha Flight acting completely out of character. Because the way Puck is written here, he's written to be so terrible. Like, oh, let's have him grab card or character he's never met because he's ordered to remove all the kids. And oh boy, we have more anti-mutant bigotry stuff. Or apparently the governor of New York is a bigot. So he's basically ordered Alpha Flight to remove all the students. Because he's a bigot. Yeah. And the stuff that Jack White reveals, by the way, in case you were, I think that's a nod to an old code name, that alias that Joker used. I'm not sure what that we have Charles Xavier's attorney, but I'm not surprised he has one, because after all, he is Charles Xavier, one of the most well-respected scientists in the whole world, and having a lawyer makes perfect sense. Him revealing the stuff, yeah, reveals that the governor is full of bullcrap. The prime minister basically was weaseled into this. Yes, and the fact that this is all a political vendetta. Yes. The rating I get this book is, I'm going to give it a 8.5 out of 10. Next up is The Trial of the Juggernaut. Yes, this is really weird stuff. There's more weird stuff here. This collects some Kenny X some issues 425 to 436. Not a lot this time. Plus only 2 issues of X Unlimited. Basically issues 40 and 48, along with Exiles. Yes, Exiles. Check out more issues this one. 20 to 30. Artwork for these people or books are Philip Tan, Steve Kim, Clayton Harry, Sean Phillips, Tyson Mizua, Ron Garney, Crisscross, and that's it. Now, this is Philip Tan, so this is basically called Sacred Vows. It's a 2-parter dealing with the wedding of Alex Summers and Lorna Doane. Despite the fact we have sort of a bachelor party, Annie becoming a stripper here for just no reason. Yep. Despite the fact that Alex is deeply in love with Annie, he ends up trying to get married to Lorna. Now, here's the thing. Now, who is the guy walking her down the aisle? That's clearly not Magneto, who is her father, but nope. And then basically, when she's coming down the aisle, it's just some random guy she just randomly finds. He's like, what's the matter? He's like, and he basically gets cold feet and calls out the wedding because he realizes it was a mistake because he's in love with Anna. And then she just basically just goes full Magneto. Where she basically just forms a Magneto helmet, becoming a female Magneto. And of course, Juggernaut wants to go see Sammy. Of course, well, Xavier says no. And of course, she goes frickin' nuts. Well, apparently she uses the plates to basically form, like, a top half Magneto signature attire. Of course, Havoc flies over with Annie and Carter. Yep. Which they kind of start their own relationship. While in the case of Havoc, he's trying to avoid his ex-fiancée. Yep. Yep, and of course, well, then she gets knocked out by Juggernaut, who basically changes his color scheme for some reason. Yeah, instead of the brown outfit, he's now wearing blue for some reason with gold. You're probably thinking, why the heck would the Juggernaut even look like this? Yeah, for some reason he would keep this look for pretty much the rest of Chuck Austin's run, even when he moved over to X-Men. Yep. And then we have a really dumb issue where we have the funeral for Angelo, who gets buried next to his family. And Warren leaves, and he's like, they're talking, like, they're mourning over Angelo's death, who was their friend. And then something very inappropriate happens. We have two diggers, like, and we have Paige looking like, oh, I'm sorry, don't mind us. Take your time, we can dig it when you're done. Jubilee is like, what? And Warren goes off to the hospital. Yes, they do this right after Warren leaves. Oh, and by the way, the reason why they want to dig him up is stupid. Really stupid. You want to know what the reason is? They want to dig him up out of this plot hole, this plot that his family paid for legally. But no, they want to dig him up because he's a mutant. Yeah, that is so stupid. Oh, and by the way, they also revealed that apparently they have an anti-mutant. They don't hire mutants. Which, oh my gosh. Like, it's like Chuck Austin writes anybody who is not associated with the X-Men to be full-on bigots for no reason. And of course, Jubilee goes after the owner for this, where basically she really wants to talk to him. He's busy talking to his wife. And of course, he basically, like, okay. All because he has the X gene, he can't be buried in the cemetery. Yeah. I'm surprised that Jubilee doesn't, like, what she should do is use the guy's phone, contact someone from the Xavier Institute, hey, this is stupid. And meanwhile, though, Warren is basically with a doctor. The Spider-Man is healing fact to heal a bunch of kids, which is really nice. And then Paige basically takes on the big bulky guy, who turns out he's immune to basically is like Colossus. And of course his boss sees this and fires him on the spot for it. All because he is immune and it's against their policy. Oh boy. If this just came out in 2020, you're probably like, yeah, they should rewrite their hiring policy. So, and of course he gets to leave. And as an apology, even though they dug up the guy's grave, just because the mutant, which I think is really stupid. So basically, they move Angelo and I think they move his family too. It's not stated if he does. It's implied he does. And then we have Exiles 20 to 30. This is an excellent three-parter. I love this three-parter. It's called Unnatural Instincts. This particular three-parter has the Exiles meeting the X-Men for the first time. And they're there to get Havoc, except they're not getting the actual Havoc. They're getting Mutant X Havoc, who is evil. Yep. They're here to get him. They look like they were going to start a fight with the X-Men. But lucky enough, Nocturna, basically, when she sees Nocturna, like, oh, hi, Dad. Yep. She says that. It's like, don't call me that. And then later on, he finds out after the story was wrapped up, it's like, if you have your father, who's my wife? Who's the lucky woman be the mother of your mother? And she says, Wanda Maximoff. She's also called the Scarlet Witch. And he's like, huh. I should probably contact Wanda about that. He never does. Seriously, he never contacts Wanda Maximoff over the fact that this girl is his daughter. Nope, never does. Yeah, this three-parter is awesome. I love it. We even have Juggernaut doing a fastball special, which is awesome. And they also point out the fact that we have Ileana and Marco here. But oh yeah, two women who basically are dead. And and of course we have Warren saying, oh yeah, I gotta go save the woman I love. Eisman's like, who are you talking about? And he's like, Paige. Like, oh, okay, Paige. Yep. By the way, this relationship was a serious controversy at that point in time. Because they thought, oh, Paige was too young. Paige was 19 when they started this relationship. So, perfectly consenting adults. I'm not really sure why the heck people were against a relationship between them. Yeah. But by far, the best thing about this story is the fastball special. I love it. I thought it was a really good idea. Having the Juggernaut basically put Nocturne on his hand and then do a fastball special, which is so awesome. Yeah, the three-parter is excellent. If you have Exiles, you would love this. And then pretty much some of the remaining issues of this trade is the Draco Story Arc. Okay. This story arc reveals Nightcrawler's backstory. Yes, you think basically, according to Chris Claremont, he was a son of a German baron. Nope. That's not the reason. His father is a demon. His father's name is Azazel, a red-skinned demon with yellow eyes. Mystique had a one-night stand with him, can't stand him, and the whole thing of him, like her abandoning Nightcrawler as a child, that part is true. But yeah, Draco Azazel is responsible for Nightcrawler's demonic appearance. That's where he gets the demonic appearance from his father. He gets the blue skin and the yellow eyes from his mother. But yeah, his father tries to do something. He ends up overthrowing his father. Yeah, the story arc itself is fine. It's not a terrible story arc. It's just that Azazel is not that good of a villain. Though they do bring him back for an arc in Amazing X-Men. And of course, Xavier, Juggernaut tries to go visit Sammy, and of course, he gets lit from frickin' North Star. And of course, deal with the whole thing with Draco. Yeah, the whole thing with Juggernaut himself, that actually would lead into something related to... I'll get to it because it's hilarious. Yep. The Draco story arc is fine. It's not terrible. It's actually a pretty good story arc. It's fun, interesting. I like the development for Nightcrawler. But the whole thing with the side plot, it sets up the very next story arc. Yep. And right at the end of the Draco story arc, we pretty much have Juggernaut confronting Sammy's father. There's a fight him nearly breaking his house. And he gets arrested. Yes, he gets arrested. By the way, the Draco story arc, it's a 6-parter. It starts with 429. I think it wraps up with like 428 to 434. The last two issues in here is the trial of the Juggernaut. And then we have She-Hulk here. Yes, She-Hulk is here for these two issues. And he's basically spending prison time here. And there's a funny thing related to She-Hulk in this story arc. Yes, there's a funny thing related to her. Then we have apparently the Rhino show up with this prison. Yes, the Rhino is here. Which is kind of strange why the Rhino would basically be here. And it's like, put a gun in his mouth, shoot him. And this Rhino, who is not Alex, is a different Rhino. He apparently gets killed. And then and Juggernaut surrenders. And then he gets released by She-Hulk, and then in the very next page starts a recurring joke for over a year. Juggernaut and She-Hulk have sex. Yep, they do it. And then we have this other guy who claims to be the Juggernaut. Clint Marco fights him, and turns out that this is actually just some kid, and of course, he doesn't like the fact that She-Hulk called him a moron. Yep. And then, of course, he gets pardoned, and, that's it. X-Men Unlimited 40. This is a very interesting standalone issue. This is simply put the story of how Sabretooth met Mystique, had a one-night stand with her, and this basically is how Graydon Creed was conceived in this one-shot issue. Yep. 48 is just kind of a follow-up to that, where you have Mystique in custody of S.H.I.E.L.D. to possibly set up something for later. Just a Mystique issue. It's really all it is. It doesn't really lead anywhere. I think it does lead to a Mystique ongoing series. But yeah. I gotta say, the issues in here are a lot better than they were in the last trade. At least the characters were a little more interesting. But if you look at this, you technically only get about 3 story arcs. You have, the story that started. The Draco Story Arc was really interesting. The Trial of the Juggernaut was hilarious. And, okay, the thing with She-Hulk in here, this is not actually She-Hulk. Nope. Yeah, it was retconned by Dan Slott that this is actually not She-Hulk, but actually, get this, a alter reality duplicate of her. Yep, this is retconned by Dan Slott himself in the pages of She-Hulk. Yeah, and She-Hulk basically gets a joke like, oh yeah, you had sex with Juggernaut. And she's like, I did not have sex with Juggernaut. Yep, that becomes a minor joke for a while. Yep, and she pokes fun at basically this, which I think is quite hilarious. But it seems so strange though. She-Hulk showing the pages of X-Men? Seriously? Is a shared Marvel Universe. Nick Fury, basically, him show up here is not surprising. He showed up occasionally over the years, so no surprise there. But She-Hulk? Wow, that's quite something. But in my opinion, to Kate Marco, Kate, you lucky dog to get She-Hulk in bed with you. You lucky dog. Yep. Yeah, and I'm looking at the time like, yeah, this is one of those rare occasions where I talk for 40 minutes because there's a lot of stuff happening. That's literally the reason why for this. Okay, so that's it for particular review. Next one, Barto. Okay, see you next video. Bye.